video from last night was just horrendous. So very choppy. The lighting was horrible. So what I'm doing is I'm just going to record another session on what we talked about last night, because I know a lot of you found that very important. Button my shirt a little more professionally here, right? So what we're going to talk about tonight is really understanding the differences between internal, external, structured, unstructured. We're really going to hammer that home, and then we're also going to talk about ways in which we present our data and um, kind of understanding what data we want, when we want it, how we want it. So we'll spend, I don't know, maybe like 45 minutes on that. So anyway, first up, we're going to talk about understanding the output of the data. And if you think about where we're going to look, are we going to look internally? Are we going to look externally? And do we know what our competition is doing, where they're looking? Do we have to do the same thing? And I'm going to ask a lot of rhetorical questions tonight, but no, we don't have to do the same thing, because what we're doing fits our needs, remember? And Tawana talked about it in class. She asked the question in week 2 of when do we stop? What's too much data? And we really continue to let's look at beta, right? We get our business decision, then we go to our analysis and kind of figure out what we're looking for. Then we collect that data and we synthesize that data. And that data, after we look at it, which is we're going to infer, right? So if we look at it, we're going to either support or toss our hypothesis. And then the R is then we report out, right? So if we don't find what we're looking for by the time we get to the I, then we have to go back and add another layer and another layer and another, and just keep trying to solve for that question, because we really think that that will give us the information we need to answer our business question. So know our limitations. If we're going, and we'll reference this a lot tonight, our wine, wags, and crafts, we're a very small operation. So we don't want to spend a lot of time and energy just to continue to filter something to try to get the answer we want. We have to kind of cut our losses and maybe look to make more concise decisions, and till we are in a position to expand. So it's all relevant. And then looking at Amazon, they have essentially unlimited revenue where they can analyze. They can run algorithms all day long and produce analytics that are favorable, but they can continue to do that, where for us that would essentially bankrupt a small organization. So here's our biggie, right? We look at our data definition, our framework, which is something that we all have talked about over the last, I think really since like week 1, we've started talking about this. So everything that we collect, everything that we look at falls into 4 categories. So we've got our grid, right? And in quadrant 1, we've got our structured internal data. In quadrant 2, to the next, we've got our unstructured internal data. And down in the lower left, in quadrant 3, we've got our structured external data. And then over in quadrant 4, lower right, we've got our unstructured external data. Okay, so I'm going to give you examples of each category and how we define and why we define it such. So our internal structured data is the cheapest, right? Stuff that we can generate. Not going to have to add additional personnel power to get these things get this thing happening, because a lot of the data that we're going to pull is data that's auto-generated. So from the human side of the house, those are your surveys, your internal surveys. You maybe send it out to employees. Maybe we send it out to all of our customers at Wine, Wags, and Crafts. Another human-generated structured internal source of data would be like in school when you take an aptitude test. So that's all collected. It's all internal data. We're not reaching out to anybody. It's not going to cost us anything. And when we look at your machine-generated internal data, you can look at transactions like Dunkin' Donuts and Starbucks. I promise I won't say Starbucks a lot tonight. I know you're gun shy. And it's just, we've heard it so much, and it's something that we're so tired of at this point, of bringing Starbucks into the equation. So that was like last time I'm going to say Starbucks. But so Dunkin' has a pretty elaborate swipe card system. If you remember last week in Tedco, the British company, that grocer that ended up buying into becoming a data broker, very elaborate customer tracking system with their owner loyalty information. So, those are internal records which we're collecting, and they're coming to us in a structured format. And essentially, just rule of thumb, if it's coming to us in a spreadsheet, it's structured. So let's jump over to our unstructured neighbor for internal data, right? And we call it unstructured because we've really got to put something, and we can't rely on artificial intelligence at this point, because we have to try to pick things up like inflection, when we talked about that with IBM and Twitter, where you can look at the inflection of a text and determine, the emotion that goes with it, because we all know script, just reading a straight script, unless there's tons of adjectives and adverbs, we really rely on the true definition of the word. So we can't pick up on sarcasm unless we're told that, hey, this character is sarcastic, so read it accordingly. So anyway, the human-generated element is the person or the individual that vets that and comes up with the data for us. But again, unstructured means they have to structure it for us so we can do things with it. And once it's formatted, we can then run kind of regression analysis. We can look at things in which we are trying to develop and identify trends. But we need that in a spreadsheet to do that, or a flat file, as people call it. So that could be emails, letters, text messages, audio transcripts, customer comments, voicemails, corporate video communications, pictures, illustrations, employee reviews. Example we used in class last night was when you call an organization and the first thing you hear is, this call may be recorded for customer service purposes. So that means somebody has to listen to that call and try to pick up different words. Then they'll take that information from that call and process it, synthesize it, and say, okay, customer 327 at 9:23 p.m. on June 8th said these words to customer service rep 456. So that data still has to be structured, but somebody has to kind of go through and listen to it, just like an example we used in class last night as well, is we take a closed circuit. We have a Ring doorbell system with a camera that's in the driveway of our business, Wine, Wags, and Dogs. And it allows us to look at the traffic going by. So we can count the traffic going east and west between 3 and 8 on a weeknight. We can get a car count spreadsheet. Then we take the car count and break it down. We look at the video closer and we see how many people drove commercial trucks, how many people were in tractor trailers, how many people were driving service vans, how many people were in an Uber, how many people were taking the dog for a ride. And then we can do head counts. We can, just by watching closed circuit television, we can see, of the 500 cars that went by between 3 and 8, that 200 had dogs in the car with their head out of the window on a nice summer night. So we know that 200 cars going by on a weeknight, we can probably do some type of advertising, soliciting to those folks driving by. It's like, hey, we've got a place for your dogs here, things like that. So, but that's going to take somebody to vet that information, look through the video, notate it, make comments, and convert that into a flat file or Excel doc or Access doc so we can then analyze it. So those are our two least expensive forms of collecting data for analysis: our internal structured, our internal unstructured. So if we go down to our external structured, remember, so stuff that we can grab in a spreadsheet and do a quick analysis on. So from the human generated side, we can look at a number of retweets on Facebook. We can look when something goes viral. We can look at an organization's rating on Yelp. We might go on Yelp and say, hey, how many reviews do we have for wine, wags, and crafts? And then scroll down and start looking at the reviews. Some of the doctors now, the virtual appointments, are soliciting. They'll basically discount your visit if you agree to give them a positive recommendation on a social media site. So it's a fairly common practice now with more virtual doctor visits happening. And obviously that's just kind of a way to skew the data, kind of like with almost said it, with Amazon, where they'll take that information and kind of populate it. So when you're ready to check out, you can say, oh, by the way, you had an interest in this as well, and this customer bought this, of whom you had a similar interest to. So anyway, from the human generated to the machine generated side, one of the earlier things we discussed was the John Deere sensors in the tractor. I mean, that's external structured data that we're going to get. And we can look at the organization's GPS, where people are going, when they're going, what time they're going. We talked about having the GPS essentially on our phones or watches when we go into a Target, so they can determine how far down an aisle we go. So if they're working with a vendor, they can say with evidence, the buyers can say to the vendor, hey, our average customer, goes 8 feet down this aisle to get this item, or our average customer stops at 8 feet, 32 feet, and 60 feet. So those are the product placement areas where a vendor would like to get their wares because they know there's more traffic in those spots. So our last quadrant is unstructured external data. So you can find that on social media. You can find that on YouTube. You can find that on Instagram, Snapchat. You can kind of stalk and get that information. You can look at the comments that are in a Yelp, not necessarily the reviews, because remember, the comments have to be interpreted, and the comments will usually, it's like you're not going to see a 5-star review with a comment that said, this place really stinks. So you can sort by the structured piece, the star, because it's a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. The lowest you can give it is a 1. So then you're assuming that the ones will all have lousy reviews, but sometimes folks will purposely place a horrible review, a fantastic glowing review with a 1 star, because a lot of buyers and a lot of folks that are looking to partner with an organization like this will look to see all the dirt first. So let's say that we're looking at wine, wags, and crafts, that we're looking to partner up with a tequila vendor, and we know that one of the tequila vendors is a huge animal rights activists. So that's kind of right up our alley for what we're promoting at our establishment. So this individual we would partner with, but we would also want to see, historically how this individual does. And if this individual is successful, and we could then tag different social media accounts. But my my point is, so if we have if we have a vendor in here, and we are doing if we're going to do a review, we could say this is the best place I've ever been to. My dog loves it here. Um, the wine is great. The beer is great. I can't wait to come back. 1 star. So now Pete's Vodka, or not Pete's Vodka, V1 Vodka is actually a kid that I grew up with that owns that company. But the the tequila company would, if they're looking to do business with us, they're going to jump into that. They're going to look at all our 1 stars and say, okay, let's see what people don't like about that. And we're intentionally populating 1 stars with positive information in a way in which we know that instead of scrolling through 500 great recommendations, a lot of organizations that are looking to do business with you, and that could be an individual as well, will look at the ones to see, okay, what am I in for? What's going to happen? And I don't know if you do that when you're shopping with Amazon products, or when you look at and they have all the reviews listed, all the stars listed, you click on the hyperlink for the 1 star so you can see all the bad stuff people are saying about it. So it is a ploy by some organizations to, again, juxtapose that and put the really the 1 stars with glowing recommendations. So you're kind of scratching your head saying, I wonder why they gave it 1 star, but yet they absolutely love the product. Well, they gave it 1 star, so you would click on it and you would see that review. Because there's far fewer 1 star reviews than there are 5-star reviews, and the 1 star reviews are accessed more frequently, almost 2 to 1, than a 5-star review. So again, that's our human-generated external data, things that we have to work for to get in. Surveillance video, looking at maybe blogs that you can see the commentary in blogs. So things that we can't put easily into a spreadsheet until we can say, blog number 5 had this to say about us, and so we put that in this column, stuff like that. So our 4 V's of data: volume, velocity, variety, veracity. Okay, so the volume, we have to be sure that we can manage the volume that we're going to generate. So if we're collecting all the data and we're not doing anything with it, it's a complete waste of time. And it's giving us, if we're only going to use this, a portion of what we're collecting, we're not giving ourselves kind of a true analysis to see if A plus B equals C, if we're just going to have enough bandwidth to just use A. So, understand the volume, understand the velocity. YouTube videos and tweets go viral in minutes, in seconds, like the blink of an eye, with a worldwide viewership. Once you start seeing the likes pile up, it's just exponential. So the likes start populating other friends' inboxes with, hey, a video that you liked, or a video of somebody you follow got a like. So, through these data brokers, once they start looking at these likes, it's not like us when we look at a like where it's just a little dopamine rush and we're like, cool, people like my video. So this is more of an organization and a broker sees that there's a lot of likes, they can help promote that video and get it out, because it's in their best interest to have more viewers, and then they can then broker it to other organizations to say, okay, here's some data based on a video that was watched 1,000,000 times. And last but not least, the V of veracity. Is it a good idea? Is it a good plan? Is it data that we need? Is it pertinent to us? Wendy's versus Augie and Ray's. They both sell hamburgers. They have a different clientele. Augie and Ray's does not have a drive-through. Wendy's does. Wendy's sells salads and chicken. So you can walk up to the counter thinking you want a burger and get something else. But so their data is a little more open-ended, where Augie and Ray's is like you're going to get one of 3 or 4 things when you're there. So it's a little different. They're not going to use the same strategy, because even though they have the same products, essentially, they have 2 different B's for their beta, or 2 different business questions. So understand the 4 V's: volume, velocity, variety, and veracity. So further breaking down our structured internal data, it is, I'm going to just go over these 4 one more time, because these are things that you're definitely going to want to talk about when you're presenting your final. So our structured internal data, it's free. Think of databases, race, age, religion, gender, phone number, address, email address. I mean, those things are just information you can pull out of a straight census database. Sensor data, transaction records, sales receipts, things in which are timestamped, things in which are populating your either your cash register or your computer to track, which will help you identify frequency, to help you identify product, help you get leaner in inventory. So again, that's structured internal data. Or unstructured internal data, listening to those customer service calls, our closed circuit television data, the the loss prevention department at JCPenney's just watches, at the end of the day, closed circuit television video, and they kind of fast forward and follow people around to see if there's any employees stealing, which is typically the number one cause of shrinkage, is internal theft. But I digress. So conversational data that you're going to need to put into another. You might have a clerk that talks to customers at stores, or you might get information from a greeter at Walmart to say, what was, how many people do you think you talked to today? And, what was the nicest thing you heard? And what was the nastiest thing you heard? So you can get all that conversational data and put that convert that over into a spreadsheet and analyze that. So